You're on air.
Hello, my name is Sharad Patel and I'll be talking about how to disassemble a computer. This is a standard computer that has been placed on an anti-static wrist mat, and as you can see from the front there's the CD drive, floppy drive here and the on and off button above. On the back there is the standard connections to the power supply over here, the keyboard and mouse, the screen, the sound, the USB and the Ethernet. And there's screws on the side so you can remove the cover. So this is what it looks like from inside the case, and to start with we'll be taking out the whole computer. First of all, I'll be removing the side cover. So once that's out of the way, it gives you access to the front. By doing this, you can disconnect the CD drives, the power connector and the IDE connector. By pressing this, you can release the drives to come out. This is the standard CD drive with the standard connections for the IDE and the power supply on the side. This is also another one which has the same thing at the back, in which you can use as a DVD-ROM, CD writer or DVD writer. And you can disconnect the floppy drive as well, being this standard floppy with the floppy connections for the power and the data. Then disconnect the hard drive from the computer, in which this is an IDE hard drive with the power supply connector on the back, and it just slots right through. Then what we can do is, the connections are free for the power supply, we can remove the additional 4-pin connector that goes to the motherboard, which looks like that, and the other 20-pin connector that goes to the motherboard as well, which looks like that. And then we can unscrew the power supply screws, which are at the back. They're usually 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. By doing this, the power supply has come out, and as you can see, it's a standard power supply with a couple of connections to it. Next up, I'll be removing the PCI card, which is here. This one is for a modem connection. And then you can pull it out like so. That one comes out. We're disconnecting this wire for the speaker, which goes to this, and this lead here for the switching and the lighting at the front. I can also remove the IDE cables which connect to the hard drive, it's this one, and the CD drive, which is this one. It has 2 connections, so you can connect multiple drives. And finally this one, which is for the floppy drive, but only comes in single. This lead here is for the audio on the CD drive, and that's released this one as well, which is an extra connection provided for the motherboard for extra use. Once that's done, we're releasing the main system fan, so that has been detached from the motherboard, and the motherboard is now disconnected, so I'll be unscrewing it to take it out. Usually they come with about 6 to 9 screws. Also, another health and safety measure is to usually ground yourself when doing this work. There are 2 ways: either using an anti-static wrist strap, otherwise holding onto any metal piece of the case. One more. This has now released the motherboard, so it should just lift out. We are gonna now remove the processor from its fittings. So usually they come with 2 clamps like these, which clip the heatsink down. We disconnect the fan connection to the processor, the heatsink. This has released the heatsink with the fan. That's the processor there, and this is the RAM. We're going to release the housing for the heatsink, so it should free up the motherboard totally. This comes on 4 screws. Now this has released the motherboard from its housing, so it should just pop right up, and here we have the motherboard, and the case is empty. Pop on the floor. That's the motherboard. To take out the RAM, you put the 2 clips down and then pull up the RAM from the side. Be sure not to touch the gold pins along the bottom, as it could be static. To install RAM, you make sure that they're going the right way, the cut being on the middle, on the lining. You pop it in and you press down on the sides, in which you should hear the clips go in. This side has gone in at the moment, this side hasn't, so a bit more force is needed. And then you push these 2 in to make sure it's secured in, and that's the memory done. Now I'm going to be putting everything back together. The motherboard will go on the side.